Hello, welcome to the CSS module. If you remember the HTML module, you'll remember that the web pages we made were super ugly because there was no styling. And this is where CSS comes in. We're going to make the website look pretty. So here's a CSS, a website with HTML and CSS. You can see it doesn't look as ugly as the one with just HTML. However, there's still no functionality, so we'll get to that with JavaScript. But for now, the goal is to style the website with CSS. So CSS syntax. How do you write CSS? There's two parts. There's the selector, where you get the element, the HTML element that you want, and you can see you have these curly braces after the selector. And it's what gets inside the curly braces. You put your property and then its value. So we're setting the paragraph tags, the color of them, we're setting it to blue. Styling, and going back, the selectors. So we talked about the selector being this, getting the tag you want. So you can get the tag itself. You can include this dot to get the class attribute. So dot class. The hash symbol for the ID, so with an ID of hash, or ID of an ID. And then you can have these little curly braces, so the P with the hover, if you hover over it, then you'll get your properties. There's also like a visited, an active one, first child, which sets the first element with the styles specified in here. Last child, nth child, there's tons of other ones. Tons of selectors. And styling. So you put your styles here. I'm not going to explain this because we'll get into it when you code. And that's really all you need to know. You grab an element with the selector and then you style it. That's what you need to know for CSS. So let's code. Right, let's code some CSS. So I'll open up VS Code. I have this folder, drag it into there, and I put a little image. You can find your own image if you want. And I'm going to right click, create a new file, index.html. Do exclamation point tab to get the basic HTML thing. Now let's open this in live server. Okay, so let's add a p tag. So I'll do p tab to get a p tag. Now there's three different ways you can add CSS. You can add a style attribute and just write your CSS for the thing using the style attribute. You can add style tags, so style, tab, and it's in the head section. Is the P selector, color red. Boom, so you can do that. Or you can do what most people do, is you create a new file, do it, right click, new file, style.css. Okay, so right now these two files don't know each other exist, so let's link the CSS to the HTML. Link, I'll click CSS, and I'll change that to style, which is the name of the file. Okay, so let's get that p tag using the p selector, and you can do all sorts of things. You can set the color. You could use hex values for the color. You could do red, green, blue. Yeah, I'll keep it at blue though. So there's literally hundreds of different attributes that you can use for all these tags. So I'm only going to go over like the main ones. So let's delete paragraph. And replace it with a div. We'll give it an ID of playing. So we'll do the little hash symbol, playing. Okay. Hash symbol playing. There's like a air show outside, so that's what it is. Okay. Div ID of playing. So let's get that ID of playing with the little hash symbol. Let's set the width to 100 or to 15 VW viewport width. Set the height to 15 viewport height VH. And then we'll do a background of, I'll show you this really quick, URL. Then we can link the background image. You can see the background, but let's just change it to blue. Cool. And you'll notice that it doesn't quite hit the top yet, and that's because of this little box model. So the div itself, we set a width and a height, 15 VH, 15 VH. So the width and height is like the thing itself. And then the padding, we'll go over that soon. Border, you guys know what the border is. We can set a border. And what we care about is the margin. So margin pushes, so it's the space around the element, so the space around the div. And the body in the HTML actually have a default margin. So let's do HTML, comma, body to get both of them. We'll set body or margin 0, padding 0, and let's set a width and height for the margin and the padding 100 VW viewport width, height of 100 VH viewport height. Okay, you can see that since we set the margin to 0, and the padding to 0, it goes back here. Now, I'll illustrate what padding is. I'll add a P there that says hi. And you'll notice that it moved down a little bit. The P element actually has some padding by itself. So we'll do P, we'll do padding, do 15 pixels. And let's set the color to white so you can see it. So you can see the padding, it moves things inside inside like the space like it occupies. If the margin would push like the div this way or whatever, and the padding would it's the stuff inside. That's what the padding is. It's the space between the border and then the width and the height itself. So you can do padding right to, so margin's outside, padding's inside. I can do 10 pixels. It didn't do anything because it pushed it right, not left. It should have been left. So there you go. You understand the little box model. So let's do some layouts now. I'll add another div. I'll add two other divs of the class. Oh yeah. Dot. We'll do a class of played. We'll do a div with a class of played. Two of them. Dot played. Tab. So how I do it, I just do the div, the class thing or the ID, and then I type in what the class name I want is, and then tab. And that's how I do that. So I'm actually going to take this out right now. And what you typically do in CSS is you set your HTML and body to this with the margin padding 0, and then it taking up the full width and the full height, the body and the margin. And then you use divs to kind of do your layouts, and you put the HTML elements inside the divs. So let's change the width to 100 VW viewport. Boom, it takes out the entire screen. Height, we'll do 30 pixels, or not 30 pixels, 30 VH. You can use pixels too. See? And then played, set the width to 50 VW, height 30 VH, background red. See? Only is one of them. That's fine. That's fine. They're both on top of each other now. That's why you can't see the other one. Okay, so that's pretty much what you do for layouts. You set this one, and then you set the you just set the widths and the heights with VW and VH. That's how you do layouts. Now I want to show you a few other cool things inside here. Let's add a p tag. It says hi. Show you another. We got the margin there again. That's fine. So we'll type that out, this ID, and I'll type in P. So this means all the P's inside this ID. So I'll set the margin to 0. Set the color to white. And then I want to show you how to center things. So display flex. And you do this in the div tag that the element's inside. And justify content, center. Align items, center. So that's how you center things inside a div. Or inside, you can even use the body with the flex too if you want to center everything. But yeah, so you have the element inside the div, then inside the div again, the div the I playing, do display flex, justify content center to center it horizontally, and align item center to center it vertically. Okay, now I'll show you another cool thing. Here I'll write display grid, and let's take that out. Grid template columns 30%, 30%. Let's see if this works. 60, 40%. Yeah, that's really cool. So if you want to do, if you want to kind of get like little things, do little grids, you can do display grid in the div you want. Right now I'm doing it in the body, so display grid, and then grid template columns, 30%, 30%, 40%. So it's seeing these three divs, and it's dividing the page into the three divs. So the first div gets 30% of the page. The second div gets 40% or 30% as well. And the fourth div, or the third div, also gets 30%. Let's yeah, Cool. So that's what you guys need to know in terms of layouts. And I'm going to X this out. Reopen it. Drag another file into here. And I'll open it up. So this is a site I made in a CSS, like a mock site. Doesn't do anything, but if you open this animate page, you can do little animations and stuff. So what I want you to do now is to retype this this thing. There's going to be tons of CSS things that you don't really see, or we haven't talked about, and that's perfectly fine. It's going to be tough, but you'll learn a ton typing this out, and Google things you don't know. Yeah, I'll go over it really quick. Text decoration. So we didn't go over this, but that's all right. You can do it. Go type it out. Oh, I wanted to go over the media thing. So media, it just makes it more responsive. So type this out on your own. You can do it, and after you're done, I'd recommend to find like a random website and see if you can like imitate it with the CSS. Remember, CSS is no functionality, so like buttons and stuff, they won't work. But yeah, nice job. Start practicing.